Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're looking at traits in Rust. We've already taken a little look at them when we talked about generics in one of the previous videos. And today we're actually getting to implement them a little bit. So let's take a look at that. Okay, as always, Rustling's watch is already executed in the Rustling's repository, and we see that the first error we're getting here is in exercises traits1.rs, and we can see that there's a certain API, in this case append bar, which doesn't seem to be implemented for the type string, and that's what the compiler is complaining about. So let's have a look at that file. I'm going to open up exercises, traits, and then traits1.rs. Okay, and here we see the file says your task is to implement the trait append bar for the type string. The trait append bar has only one function, which appends the string bar to any object implementing this trait. Okay, let's see. So here we have a trait definition called append bar. And that trait says it has a function append bar, which takes itself as an argument. This is basically a pattern that you have in Rust when you implement methods on types. You need to inject a reference to the thing itself so that it becomes a method on that type or object you're dealing with. And then it returns itself. Okay, and then down here we have this implementation block for the type string. It says implement append bar for string. So this is an implementation block specifically for that type. And then here we have to add our implementation of that function here. Okay, and then we see down here there is a main function which creates a string and then calls append bar on it. And it prints whatever it returns. And here's a test that checks whether string from foo append bar is the same as a string from foo bar. So that's the expected outcome here. Down here's another test where it creates another empty string. It appends the string bar and another bar, and it expects it to be the string bar. Okay, so to make this work, what we have to do is say that this implementation block has indeed a function append bar, which takes itself and returns itself as well. And then we need a way to create a string from that existing string that we are dealing with. So again, down here we create a variable s with the string foo, and that is already there. We need to append something to it. And that thing that's already there is actually this self thing here. So we can say we create a new string from that self thing, which is our string that we're dealing with. And then we concatenate that with another string slice bar. This is a shorthand syntax, if you will, to add a string slice to a string type. And because this is the only statement in this function and there's no semicolon here, this is going to be the return value of that function as well. And that should make it work. So let's save the file and check the compiler. Yep, that's working. Okay, wonderful. So we've just implemented our first trait. Cool. So let me remove that comment here and go back to the compilation output. Okay, we have another error in traits2 where it says the method append bar was not found on the type vec of string. Okay, so let's have a look at that file and see what's going on there. I'm going to open up traits2.rs. Okay, and here we see the file says your task is to implement the trait append bar for a vector of strings. To implement this trait, consider for a moment what it means to append the string bar to a vector of strings. No boilerplate code this time. You can do this. Okay, so, and then we have the same thing here. We have the trait append bar, which says it has a function append bar and it returns itself. Okay, cool. And then we have a test here that checks whether the value that is popped from a vector of strings equals to a string bar. And then we see here there's a vector with the string foo, and we append bar, and then we expect the pop value to be string bar because that's the thing that we've added to it in the previous line. And then the next pop value from it should be the string foo because that's the first value that's already in that vector here. Okay, so let's make this work. We need to say we want to implement append bar for the type vector. Now, if you've seen any of the previous videos, you know that vector is actually a generic type. So it's actually vec_t, but we want to implement it just for vec of strings. So this also means that whatever we define in this implementation block are APIs that are only available for vectors of strings, which is kind of cool. So you can actually create different APIs for different types of vectors or different vectors that hold values of different types. Okay, and then we want to add a function append bar, which takes a self and returns a self. And okay, how do we make this work? We definitely want to push something into the vector that we're getting, so it has to be immutable. So let's say we have an immutable variable, v, which we assign the value of self to, and then we say we push the string bar into it, and then once that is done, we can return that vector. Now this can be done actually shorter here as well, because we're already saying that this is for vec of string. And as we've discussed in one of the previous videos about strings, we can then instead call the .into API on our string slice here. And because of the type annotation, Rust is going to infer that what we want to turn this string slice into is indeed a string. Okay, so saving that again and taking a look. Yep, this is compiling. Okay, wonderful. Let's remove the comment and move on to the next one. And that was our little session about traits in Rust. Hopefully that gave you a little bit of an idea how to implement a custom trait. As always, thanks for watching and see you in the next video.